Imagine yourself in the damp, misty marshes of early 19th century England, where the wind seems to carry both the sighs of old secrets and the whispered promises of future fortunes. It is here, in the gray twilight of an unforgiving landscape dotted with prisoned ships on the horizon, that a young boy named Philip Pirrip, known simply as Pip, first stands at the threshold of a life he cannot yet fathom. Charles Dickens's Great Expectations transports us through Pip's extraordinary journey from childhood innocence to the uncertain realms of adulthood, weaving together mystery, heartbreak, ambition, and redemption in a richly layered narrative that continues to captivate readers centuries after its publication. This is not a simple rags-to-riches story, though money and social standing are at its core. Nor is it merely a coming-of-age tale, despite following Pip's evolution from a vulnerable orphan to a world-weary gentleman. Instead, Great Expectations is a tapestry of human desire, pride, shame, love, and generosity, both hidden and revealed. Within its pages, we witness a gallery of unforgettable characters: the bitter yet tragically sympathetic Miss Havisham, the coldly enchanting Estella, the kind-hearted blacksmith Joe Gargery, and the menacing yet ultimately noble Abel Magwitch, to name only a few. As we sink deeper into the narrative, we'll discover how these figures shape Pip's destiny and how the shifting winds of fortune test his moral compass. By the time we reach the end, we'll have walked through the dusty corridors of an old mansion frozen in time, roamed the smoky streets of London's underbelly, and ventured back to the quiet country forge where it all began. Our story opens on Christmas Eve in the flat marshlands of Kent. Pip, a young orphan who lives under the care of his hot-tempered older sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, and her mild, compassionate husband Joe, is paying a visit to his parents' graves. He's still a small child, shivering in the gloom, trying to make sense of the world without parental guidance. Suddenly, a terror looms. A gaunt, shackled figure emerges from behind a gravestone. This escaped convict, dirty and desperate, threatens Pip and demands food and a file to free himself of his iron fetters. Frightened out of his wits, but too kind-hearted to refuse, Pip complies, stealing a piece of bread and a file from Joe's forge. Although the convict disappears, this unsettling encounter leaves an indelible mark on Pip's conscience and destiny. Shortly after, life returns to its normal rhythm. Pip grows up in the modest Gargery household. Joe is a blacksmith, a warm, honest man who treats Pip with a gentle affection that stands in stark contrast to Mrs. Joe's abrasive strictness. Pip's childhood is defined by a curious blend of fear and comfort. His sister wields a cane, ironically named Tickler, to discipline him, but Joe's quiet kindness offers a refuge. The forge, with its steady glow and rhythmic hammering, becomes a symbol of reliability and decency, even if Pip doesn't appreciate its value just yet. A pivotal moment arrives when Uncle Pumblechook, a pompous relative who prides himself on hollow respectability, informs the family that Pip is to be taken to visit Miss Havisham, a wealthy and eccentric recluse who resides at the mysterious Satis House. Pip is stunned by the invitation and a bit intimidated by the notion of entering a grand home so unlike his own. On the appointed day, he steps into a carriage of sorts, leaving behind the simple marshes for the curious decay of Miss Havisham's world. Nothing prepares Pip for what he sees inside Satis House. It's as if time itself has collapsed. Miss Havisham resides in a world caught at the stroke of a single broken moment. She sits in a faded bridal gown, the veil yellowed with age, the wedding feast rotting on a long-abandoned table. Spider webs, dust, and shadows fill the corners. The once grand mansion is now a shrine to heartbreak, as Miss Havisham was long ago jilted at the altar. She has allowed the betrayal to define her entire existence, halting all the clocks at 20 minutes to 9 and never seeing daylight again. This eerie setting imprints itself on Pip's imagination, making him uneasy and fascinated in equal measure. In this strange, decaying realm, Pip meets Estella. She's a girl about his age, raised by Miss Havisham to be beautiful and cruel. Estella's contemptuous gaze and mocking words strike Pip like lashes. He notices his rough hands and clumsy boots, and for the first time, he's made to feel truly ashamed of his humble origins. Estella lights a spark in him, but it's a painful spark. He admires her beauty and grace even as she demeans him. In this moment, Pip's youthful innocence falters, and an ambition is born. He longs to become a gentleman, someone worthy in Estella's eyes. Over time, Pip continues to visit Miss Havisham and Estella. Although these visits fill him with confusion and longing, they also deepen his dissatisfaction with his home life. He begins to see Joe's simple forge and country manners as obstacles to his dreams. This inner conflict grows like a festering wound. The warmth of Joe's care still comforts him, but it now feels overshadowed by the glittering illusion of a grander life. Pip returns home more discontented than ever, silently rebelling against the destiny that seems laid out before him. To become Joe's apprentice and spend his days forging horseshoes in the dim glow of a countryside hearth. As the years pass, Pip enters his teens and does, as expected, become Joe's apprentice. He plods through the motions, haunted by memories of Estella's scorn and Miss Havisham's quiet smirk. Surely she must be grooming him for something greater? He dreams that his future wealth and status will one day allow him to claim Estella's love. But the reality remains grindingly dull until the day Jaggers appears. Mr. Jaggers is a powerful London lawyer, sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, and bristling with authority. He arrives unexpectedly with astonishing news. Pip has come into great expectations. A secret benefactor has bestowed a large fortune on him, and he is to move to London, become educated as a gentleman, and enjoy the life he had longed for so fervently. Pip assumes that the benefactor must be none other than Miss Havisham. After all, who else could be rewarding him for his earlier visits to Satis House? This sudden reversal of fortune is a dream come true, affirming Pip's budding sense of superiority and pride. Brimming with excitement, Pip sets off for London, leaving behind Joe and the forge. Despite Joe's tearful goodwill and unspoken sadness at this parting, Pip can't help feeling relieved to escape his humble origins. In London, Pip is introduced to a world of refined manners, tailors, tutors, and the social graces he so desperately craved. He befriends Herbert Pocket, a kind-hearted young man who becomes his companion and guide in navigating the perplexing social hierarchies of the city. Under Jaggers' oversight, Pip polishes his speech, learns to dress impeccably, and refines his tastes. However, life in London is far from perfect. Estella comes and goes, still aloof and somewhat unkind. Pip remains smitten, painfully aware that she is both the source of his longing and his torment. Meanwhile, the high costs of maintaining a gentlemanly lifestyle begin to weigh on Pip's conscience. He squanders money, incurring debts that he hopes will vanish once his benefactor formally reveals themselves and grants him even more wealth. The plot twists dramatically when Pip turns 23. One stormy night, he is visited by a stranger, a rough, weathered man with haunting eyes. Pip is shocked to discover that this man is Magwitch, the escaped convict he aided as a child in the marshes. And here comes the thunderbolt. Magwitch, not Miss Havisham, is Pip's secret benefactor. The fortune that has elevated Pip, giving him status and comfort, came not from a wealthy lady's whim, but from the hard toil of a man who lived much of his life as a criminal and an outcast. This revelation shatters the illusions Pip has built around himself and his expectations. The discovery throws Pip's world into chaos. He recoils from Magwitch at first, repulsed by the coarse, dangerous figure who dares to claim him as his gentleman. But as Magwitch reveals his life story, the suffering, the betrayals, and the burning desire to repay Pip's childhood kindness with lavish generosity, Pip's heart begins to soften. He learns that Magwitch risked everything to return to England, a place where he is still wanted by the law, just to see the gentleman Pip has become. Suddenly, Pip must confront the fact that the gentlemanly identity he cherished was not forged by genteel hands or the kindness of an aristocratic patron, but by a man society deems a criminal. This brutal awakening forces Pip to reassess his values. All the snobbery, the condescension toward Joe and Biddy, a loyal friend who tutored Pip as a child, and whom he neglected when he moved away, and the worship of Estella's beauty now stand before him as hollow masks. Pip begins to understand that true gentility is not about fine clothes or social invitations. It's about empathy, integrity, and moral courage. As he grapples with these revelations, Pip learns more about Miss Havisham's backstory. Her heartbreak was orchestrated by a con man named Compayson, who also happened to be Magwitch's former partner in crime. Compayson and Magwitch's histories intertwine with Miss Havisham's tragedy, revealing a twisted network of deceit and vengeance. Realizing that Miss Havisham never intended to make him her heir, Pip feels a mixture of hurt and pity for the old woman who so ruthlessly tried to mold Estella into a weapon of heartbreak. Meanwhile, Miss Havisham's carefully constructed schemes begin to collapse. She summons Pip back to Satis House, where he confronts her with his disillusionment. Miss Havisham sees her cruelty reflected in Pip's eyes. Instead of the cool detachment she once wore, she now trembles with remorse. She begs Pip for forgiveness, lamenting that she raised Estella without love, only to break men's hearts. She never imagined, or never cared, that Estella's cruelty would wound Pip so deeply. Pip forgives her, though it's a painful reckoning. In a dramatic turn, Miss Havisham's dress catches fire from the hearth's embers during their conversation. Pip tries desperately to save her, sustaining burns himself, and Miss Havisham becomes a tragic, blazing figure, consumed by the very bitterness that has haunted her for decades. As Pip tends to his injuries and struggles to protect Magwitch from the law, the story intensifies. Jaggers, the formidable lawyer, remains tight-lipped, while Wemmick, his clerk, surprisingly tender-hearted beneath a professional veneer, counsels Pip in clandestine ways. Pip and Herbert carefully plan Magwitch's escape. The old convict's life is in danger. If captured, he faces certain death. Yet, Pip's feelings for Magwitch have transformed. This man, once terrifying in the churchyard, now inspires Pip's compassion. The old notions of class superiority crumble, replaced by a quiet understanding that both men have shaped each other's destinies. Estella, for her part, is tied up in a loveless marriage with Bentley Drummle, a brute who embodies the very worst of the aristocratic pretensions Pip once envied. Although Estella was beautiful and proud, Miss Havisham's training deprived her of the warmth and tenderness needed to form genuine connections. In a tragic irony, Estella is herself trapped. Her upbringing made her unfit for true love, yet her marriage only drives her toward further misery. Pip's heart aches to see Estella's suffering and to realize that his fantasies of winning her were all constructed on illusions. Amid these personal crises, a more immediate danger looms. Orlick, a malicious character from Pip's past who once worked at the forge and later attacked Mrs. Joe, reappears as a threat. Driven by grudges and jealousy, Orlick lures Pip into a deserted sluice house. There, he nearly murders Pip, revealing just how much darkness seethes in the story's underbelly. Only the timely intervention of Herbert and friends saves Pip from a gruesome fate. This violent confrontation underscores how far Pip has strayed from the safety of home and how he's become entangled in a web of secrets and vendettas. With the escape plan set, Pip and Herbert escort Magwitch down the Thames, hoping to smuggle him onto a ship departing from London. But fate is unkind. Compeyson, the very man who jilted Miss Havisham, has been shadowing them. As Magwitch tries to flee, Compeyson confronts him on the river. The two men, bound together by old crimes and resentments, struggle in the choppy waters. Compeyson drowns and Magwitch, gravely injured, is arrested. Pip remains at the convict's side, holding his hand, speaking kindly, and ensuring that Magwitch does not die alone. It's one of the novel's most poignant moments. The old outlaw, who once stole to survive, now has someone at his deathbed who genuinely cares. Pip's growth is evident in every compassionate word. He has shed the shallow trappings of his gentility and embraced a deeper, moral understanding of human worth. With Magwitch's death, Pip's fortune evaporates. Under English law, a convicted felon's wealth is confiscated. Pip is left penniless, in debt, and emotionally drained. After falling ill, he is nursed back to health by Joe, the very friend he once spurned. Joe's quiet forgiveness and unwavering kindness shine like a beacon in the aftermath of Pip's disillusionment. Having seen the world and its deceptions, Pip finally recognizes the immeasurable value of Joe's goodness. Once he recovers, Pip intends to make amends. He plans to return home and marry Biddy, the gentle-hearted girl who always represented the best of country simplicity and honest affection. But he arrives to find that Biddy and Joe have just married. Far from feeling resentment, Pip understands that this union is right and just. Joe and Biddy deserve happiness, a happiness he once took for granted. Free of illusions and pretenses, Pip resolves to work hard and make an honest living. With Herbert's help, he secures a job in the mercantile world. Pip's days of sponging off a mysterious fortune are gone forever. It is a humbling and liberating moment. He emerges from his ordeal wiser, sadder, and more humane. Gone is the proud, snobbish young man who looked down on Joe. In his place stands a mature individual who values character over class, kindness over wealth, and truth over appearances. Now, depending on which version of Dickens's ending you subscribe to, Dickens actually wrote two. Pip's final reunion with Estella varies. In one version, the novel concludes with a somber understanding that Pip and Estella are forever changed and will never be together. In the more commonly accepted version today, the one Dickens revised, Pip returns to the ruins of Satis House many years later. He finds Estella there, alone, separated from Drummle after enduring a difficult marriage. They meet as weary travelers who have known suffering and regret. Estella, once so cold, now shows a quiet tenderness. The final image leaves open the possibility of reconciliation, of two souls who might walk away from the ruins, hand in hand, into a gentler future. This ending offers a note of hope amid the darkness, a suggestion that human hearts, bruised and scarred, can still find a way to heal. Throughout Great Expectations, Dickens shines a spotlight on class divisions, the moral ambiguities of wealth, and the illusions that come from chasing status at the expense of integrity. From the grimy marshes where a terrified boy shows mercy to a desperate convict, to the decaying grandeur of Satis House where love is twisted into revenge, to the bustling streets of London where money and reputation cast deceptive spells, every setting reveals something about human nature and society's shortcomings. The novel critiques the British class system, showing that true worth does not arise from noble birth or a thick wallet. Instead, it springs from empathy, humility, and the courage to right one's wrongs. The characters themselves illuminate these themes. Pip's arc embodies the painful process of learning that wealth and gentility alone cannot make one truly great. Joe's steadfast honesty and simplicity stand as a moral anchor, reminding us that kindness and loyalty outshine superficial elegance. Miss Havisham's self-imposed living tomb warns of the corrosive power of vengeance and heartbreak. Magwitch, initially the symbol of terror, transforms into a figure of sacrificial love, teaching Pip and readers that even the most downtrodden souls can harbor immense goodness. Estella's journey, from haughty beauty to humbled survivor, hints at the possibility of growth even after years of misguided upbringing. There is a profound emotional resonance to these lessons. Readers experience Pip's shame, his hope, his disappointment, and his remorse. We feel for Miss Havisham's lonely repentance, sympathize with Magwitch's longing to be acknowledged, celebrate Joe and Biddy's well-earned happiness, and hold our breath as Pip strives to redeem himself. Dickens, ever the master of atmosphere, uses the mists of the marshes, the flicker of the forge's fire, the cramped London rooms, and the cobwebbed halls of Satis House to create a sensory journey that parallels Pip's inner transformation. The mood shifts from eerie suspense to heartfelt sorrow, from bewildered wonder to painful clarity, enveloping us in the emotional weather of Pip's life. In the end, Great Expectations offers an enduring message about identity and self-worth. It reminds us that it's possible to overcome early mistakes and misjudgments, to find forgiveness and understanding in unexpected places, and to emerge from hardship with a renewed sense of purpose. It also warns us that blindly worshiping wealth and status can lead us astray, snaring us in traps of false pride and moral compromise. For a modern audience, the novel's lessons remain startlingly fresh. We live in a world still divided by class, wealth, and privilege, where the desire to be seen as successful can lead people to lose sight of their inner values. Pip's journey challenges us to ask, what truly makes us great? Is it the approval of those above us, or the gratitude and love of those we treat with kindness? Can we rise above the chains of our past, or will we remain shackled by old resentments and broken dreams? Dickens leaves us with a kind of cautious optimism. Yes, people can change, forgiveness can be found, even if too late for some. Love can be rediscovered, even after the fires of hatred have burned low. Our great expectations might not unfold as we imagine, but perhaps something richer, if more subtle, can replace them. A quiet understanding of compassion, empathy, and genuine human connection. In this grand and sweeping narrative, teeming with memorable characters, dramatic twists, and moral quandaries, we walk alongside Pip as he stumbles through illusions and emerges into the light of understanding. We witness the human heart in all its complexity, wounded by betrayal, driven by longing, capable of cruelty, and yet still able to find redemption. By journey's end, we understand that true nobility comes not from the finery we wear or the wealth we amass, but from the goodness we show to others, and from the courage to embrace our past, learn from it, and step forward into a better tomorrow.